Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff, the podcast inspired by conversations overheard at the airport bar. Join Phil as he grabs a couple of beers and chats with interesting people from around the world, sharing expert knowledge and hilarious stories that you won't find in your guidebook. So pull up a stool and get ready for an adventure as we explore worlds of travel and beyond with Two Beers Till Takeoff.
4 hours in a Taliban headquarters.
I had dog meat in Laos.
Was it golden retriever?
Smack a dirty old smooch on our beautiful fish right here.
He didn't die, but he fell down the side of the mountain.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff. My name is Phil, and today we have a musician and traveler of the world, originally from Northern Ireland, but joining us from Colombia. This man has a story so epic, it has 150,000 views on YouTube, and he even wrote a song about it. Welcome to the show, Kevin McCaffrey.
Thanks very much, Phil, for having me. And a very good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world, listening to the interview.
Yeah, dude. Listen, man, I guess right off the top, I came across your story, and I reached out to you because I was like, man, this story is so epic, and I just want to preface it a little bit. We'll get to it at the end, but with that, I want to say, how are you? What's going on? You're in Colombia. Where are you in Colombia in the world?
Yeah, man, I'm in Cali, Colombia. So I've been here since 2009. Initially came for a 1-year experience, and here I am after almost this July will be exactly 15 years. So no, my life's good. Yeah, I came here 15 years. Yeah. So yeah, I initially had the idea of coming over for a 1-year experience, adventure, travel around. Obviously, I initially came for a job here teaching, but the idea was to come here for a year, travel a bit, and then go back probably to Ireland or something, or maybe even Spain where I was studying. So no, man, imagine 15 years, but no, life's good. Enjoy a life in Cali, and no complaints really.
We were talking recently, and I was telling you that I was going to see a concert earlier last week. And I went to go see Queens of the Stone Age.
Stone Age, I remember we were chatting, yeah.
Yeah, dude, and it was a wild show. My fiance was supposed to come, and she ended up getting whatever the flu of the season, man. Anyways, ended up not being able to go, so I had an extra ticket. So I'm like, man, who do I bring? So I think my little cousin, he'd be up for it. The only thing though is that he's like really into like country. He's never been to a rock show. He doesn't know Queens of the Stone Age. So I'm like, this is perfect. This is going to introduce him to, rock music. And before the encore, I was like, we have to go to the mosh pit. He was like, are you sure? Like, I'm not sure I want to do this. Like, so we snuck down, and because we were in the seated area, we snuck down into the pit, and then we got in, and the Song for the Dead was going, and we were just flying in there. And at the end, he was like, man, that was crazy. Like, I've never had that experience. It was so cool.
Well, it's great that you got to bring him to his first ever proper rock concert. So he'll always remember that moment, as you will, of course, as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. And so they had a Canada tour. They ended in Halifax. And I don't know if you know Trailer Park Boys, but they had Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys, they shoot in that region near Halifax, and Bubbles came up on stage for a song.
Actually, I don't know the group you're mentioning, but that's pretty epic. That was that a local band then that came up with?
Trailer Park Boys is a TV show on like Netflix. It's like basically,
out of the loop. I only like you're talking about the bands. So no, I have no idea what.
Oh shit, dude! I gotta send you Trailer Park Boys. It's epic, man. It's basically like a story.
Is it just what you would expect instead of in the US, people who live in trailer parks? Is that the idea?
It's set in Canada, but it's basically a bunch of guys who live in trailers who are just trying to make money. One of them sells weed. You know what I mean? Like they just constantly go to jail and stuff. It's funny.
Yeah, no, send it on to me.
Yeah, I'll
check it out.
Yeah.
Hey, you. Come here. I got a secret for you. This episode is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the hangover supplement. This episode is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the This episode is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the hangover supplement industry. Listeners can now get 15% off their next purchase by using promo code 2beers in all caps at checkout. Yeah.
I think you'll like it. But anyways, Kevin, I want to kind of start from the top. You said that you're from Northern Ireland originally. I'm kind of curious. I don't want to start any beef here, but I feel like sometimes Ireland gets a bit more of the, people associate Ireland with Ireland, maybe not Northern Ireland as much. So I'd love to know Northern Ireland, how that was growing up for you, and maybe compare contrast the two Irelands for people who don't know.
I grew up actually in one of the towns that was most affected by the troubles, called Portadown. So I'd say probably after Belfast and Derry, one of the towns that was sort of at the forefront of the troubles, particularly in what was the marching season, would have been Portadown. So Portadown is very segregated, like most of Northern Ireland. So just for any of the listeners who don't really have an idea, the majority of schools in Northern Ireland are either Catholic or Protestant. There are very few mixed schools. So you grow up with a lot of segregation, and you don't really mix a lot with the other half of the community, really.
Mm.
And time, during the marching season, particularly in sort of June and July, can get very, it used to get quite tense. And again, for people who don't really understand what the marching season is, that's really, Protestants who, really are proud of their British heritage, let's say. They basically, it's their most important part of the year where they like to march and sort of, pronounce their Britishness. And basically a lot of, because I have, these marching groups, but a lot of the times, they're not having the company where it's got the other things, and it gives that incites, conflict and tension again. So basically, that's one of the first things that you grow up in Northern Ireland, it's very segregated. And there was a lot of tension growing up in just on the road I lived, some of the bottom. And I remember, I was luckily when I was growing up, I was still coming to the end of the troubles, but I still got a bit of it. And I do remember, particularly in the month of July, there was always like a lot of army and police presence outside of the house. Very often there used to be riots and conflict between the local Catholic residents and the police. And I have these sort of very clear images of probably when I was about sort of 10, 11, 12, around that age, of at times residents from my neighborhood, that have been, shot by they're trying to sort of sensationalize it. So I'm just trying to think of things that come to my head. People running into my yard room in my house, blood on them and stuff. So but as I said, luckily those sort of moments, and I remember very, very clear, I think it was 1994, 95, when I was growing up in Portadown. I do always remember there was a bomb in my town as well. That always stuck with me as well. But luckily, as I said, when I was coming to sort of to the end of the troubles, I didn't really get anything what it was like in the sort of 70s or 80s, for example. But I did get a bit of it. And then luckily, I'd say a big eye-opener for me was actually when I was 16, I was very fortunate to go on this cross-community project. So it started in the 1970s, which was the height of the troubles in Northern Ireland. So this thing called the Ulster Project. So the whole idea is people from different parts of Northern Ireland, Catholics and Protestants, come together and they stay family in different parts of the USA. And in my case, I was placed in Kansas, but I think other parts are sort of Delaware and different parts of the USA. I can't remember off the top of my head. So at the age of 16, going over and spent 5 weeks in Kansas really opened my eyes, and in terms of how I viewed things in the situation in Northern Ireland, I was like, I just knew that I didn't want to live around that sort of conflict and segregation and division. So I think that was a big eye opener for me in that sense. And really, a lot. I know there's a lot of reasons because of the conflict. But at the end of the day, there's no reason why people should be there should be so much segregation. You're not mixed with people. So I think that was a big experience for me. Number one in the sort of cross community aspect, but also having the opportunity to go and spend 5 weeks in the USA. So I think it was probably then was whenever I probably got my first real bug of like having that big eye opening experience and knowing that I didn't want to. Yeah, I certainly didn't want to live in Portadown, but I just didn't see myself studying in Northern Ireland. All of my choices that when I was studying university, it was always England. I just wanted to, I wanted a new start, wanted to go by myself, so I think that was a big, very, very, so that, I'm really thankful for that experience that I had during the Ulster project. So that was a big moment, but yeah, growing up around, there was sort of segregation and conflict, but by the time I was sort of 12, 13, it was, the peace process was already in action, from 1998. So Northern Ireland was relatively peaceful after that period. So there's only those few things that I remember sort of clear in my head from being a young kid, these sort of images that are very, very vivid. But I generally had I had a pretty good upbringing. There was tension. I remember it's quite young for kids in Northern Ireland, whether Catholic or Protestant, is to, try and start and antagonize the police and get chased by the police and stuff, and all these ideas of like kids when you're going into a Protestant neighborhood to, try and steal a Union Jack flag, and Protestants go into Catholic areas, try and steal tricolors. It's all these crazy things that looking back on, it's absolute. They don't load of nonsense, but I guess it's how you grew up, and it was certainly part of my upbringing. But as I said, I think that.
I think I think that's like a really good precursor for people, or like just a little bit of a historic update for people who weren't familiar that there was even a division. You know what I mean? Some people might not be aware of it. Like I had a chance to work with someone who was Irish and from Northern Ireland as well. So, and they were both really chill guys. So it was an easy way to kind of ask questions and to kind of get that history that you were saying, the bombs and the snipers and that type of stuff. And it's also, I guess it's good that, that's kind of over now. So, or calm now, I guess. But I don't want to go too.
No, 100%. Yeah, as I said, no, it was more until I was sort of 10, I'd say up until around some age of 10, 12 that I can really, and I remember a few things, those things that I mentioned before. And I even remember as well, we used to even play football with the army men and stuff. So it wasn't all sort of bad and antagonistic. I remember we used to play football with the army men and stuff, and they used to actually show us, we used to show us, we want to see, down the butt of the rifles, and they used to let us almost like hold the gun. Pretty, looking back, it was very interesting upbringing, I have to say.
Yeah.
But as I said, look, I didn't have to go out through anything like, my mum and dad or even my older brothers.
I want to talk about some of the stuff. So, when you do go back home, what are some of the things that you prefer to do? What are the things that, if I've never been to Northern Ireland, where would you tell me to go?
Okay, well, me personally, whenever I go home, I generally just, for me, because I only get the chance to go home from Cali every sort of, on average, every year, 2 years. For me, it's just all about going and seeing family. So I'm usually between Portadown, Armagh, which is where I went to school, Belfast. Things in terms of what to do for tourism, how would I say? Belfast is a brilliant city just to go and hang out, get the sort of, on Sunday nights, for example, I always do a really good traditional Irish music night in various parts of the city. People will always love to go and check out the Titanic Quarter. There's a tour for Game of Thrones, for example, because a lot of Game of Thrones was shot in and around Belfast. Also on the North Coast, you got the Giant's Causeway, which is this amazing, hexagonal rock formation. I think it's 6 million years old. So, and there's a lot of sort of, there's a cast around there, as close to there as well. In Bushmills, you have what they said the oldest distillery in the world. So up around the North Coast, that's always a big popular destination. The city of Derry is a great city as well to travel to. So there's a lot to do in Northern Ireland. I'd say most people go to the country of Ireland will probably, for me, my favorite part of Ireland is the West Coast. going to Cork and Kerry, absolutely stunning scenery, cliffs and mountains and woods and things like that. Yeah, it even has lovely beaches. I mean, we're not talking about, the Colombia, San Andreas, kind of Caribbean style, but we actually have a lot of really beautiful beaches around the west coast of Ireland as well. So, yeah, I mean, it depends what you're up for. I'd say another big tourist attraction for people to visit also is Newgrange, which is actually it's older than the pyramids of Egypt. It's it's a another UNESCO heritage. So I mean, it depends what you're going to Ireland for. If you're going more for the sort of culture, the art, music and stuff, you're going to go to Galway or Dublin or Belfast, more the city vibe. But I mean, if you like walks and you like mountains and cliffs, it just depends where you want to go, really. But in Northern Ireland, I'd say the best place to go would definitely be the North Coast, which I mentioned. Belfast, and around Belfast, there's loads to do, and Derry as well. It's a really good city.
Nice. I really like how you describe Ireland as one. How you don't say oh well go do Giant's Causeway, go do the Carrick Reed rope bridge, you go to Bushmills. You're like go do Cork, go do Dublin. So it's cool that you're doing that.
Well, that's that's a funny thing. It's a really weird thing. If you're from Northern Ireland, because a lot of people will consider themselves, almost half people will consider themselves British, half people consider themselves Irish. And those people that sort of consider themselves Irish only see it as one country, and those that consider themselves British do not. They even call it like Northern Ireland as one little country. So yeah, I mean, I don't consider there's two Irelands, of course not. I mean, for me, it's just all one island. But I know, of course, Northern Ireland is part of the UK. Of course, I understand that, but for me, it's all one country.
I made the mistake when I went and not booking. So we were there for St. Patrick's Day. This was my first country in Europe, and I tried to book something in Dublin, but everything was booked. So we ended up going to Belfast for St. Patrick's Day, which was fine, but we were all dressed in we had temporary Guinness tattoos and shamrock this and green that. And at night there was one guy, we were walking home and he was like, dude, guys, don't go that way. Something bad's going to happen to you. Stay on the main roads.
There's definitely a few parts. But yeah, well, again, it's not generalizing, but there are not all Protestants, for example, will celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And there's no way, obviously, Catholics will celebrate the Marching season. It's part of that's it's a really, really surreal when you think about it logically. I mean, you have all these people in this one region, and generally Catholics are more nationalistic and they want to learn the Irish language, want the Irish sports, where those that go to a Protestant school are more sort of, this idea of being proud to be part of the union, the union, the UK, and they do sort of more like rugby and cricket and things like that. And they won't, for example, practice Irish sports or the Irish language and things like that. But such is the reality. Yeah,
that's cool, man. It was the first two countries I went to, I guess, are Ireland and Northern Ireland, and it was a really good intro. I felt it felt like homish. The people were there's a big Irish capital or population in this region here, and so for me it wasn't that polarizing. I guess it was kind of really easy to go. Obviously, everything's older and stuff, and there's a way more history, or I mean, the roads are, cobblestoney, that type of stuff. We don't have that in North America. So for me, it was very different in that way. But the people were so nice and down to earth that it felt a little bit like home, because I'm just on the other coast, so we're kind of just in two opposites here.
What the crazy thing is, I was never mad for celebrating St. Paddy's Day until I came to Cali, and now in my school it's become this massive thing where the whole school celebrates St. Paddy's Day. It's crazy. I mean, what I'm talking about. I mean, we started the celebration back in 2015, but the whole school gets involved. Everyone's wearing green. All the different sections do. I of course have to dress up as a leprechaun and do this, as a wild little I'll do this little concert, but for the younger ones, for the preschool kids who absolutely love it. But man, I wasn't really until I came to Cali where I really, really started appreciating St. Paddy's Day more. I guess also when I lived in England, in Manchester, I had a couple of good St. Paddy's Days and a couple of good ones in Ireland, but it wasn't really until Colombia, because obviously there's not a lot of Irish people in Cali, so you feel like you're, flying the flag, so to speak. And I've had some absolutely amazing St. Paddy's Day parties, obviously just house parties and friends and stuff. But also, the really interesting thing is that St. Paddy's Day is actually becoming a much, much more popular thing with bars and stuff all around the city. And I mean, and anytime I play Irish music, people absolutely love it here, man. So there's just something mental that St. Patrick's Day, that was just this one small, holy day of obligation. It's the biggest non-religious celebration celebrated on all continents in the world, and they have these massive marches in places like Tokyo and Buenos Aires and Munich.
It's crazy.
There's just something, and I remember a lot of things come together. I guess not too many days where you just wear one color. It's the music. It's obviously Ireland does have a very rich culture. And I guess the St. Patrick's Day story, people do actually find quite fascinating as well. So yeah, it's mad how, I've just totally loved, and it gets bigger and bigger and more popular. So it's but it's interesting that that's where you started your travels in Europe, was in St. Paddy's Day in Ireland. So it must have been, I think it was a pretty good start.
It just lined up, man. So I was like, let's go. But so you ended up in Colombia. You said you went from Northern Ireland to Spain in school down to Colombia. How did you make that link, and how'd you pick Colombia?
Okay, so actually my it was initially, so I Portadown, right? So that lived in Portadown and went to school in Armagh, graduated from school, and then I went to study Spanish actually in Manchester in England. And because I studied Spanish, I did what's for people in Europe, it's called an Erasmus, which is basically your gap year, and it's actually supported by the European Union. So you get like a what do you call it, a bursary, like a scholarship basically. So I spent a year living in Seville, in Sevilla. It was absolutely amazing. That was one of the best years of my life. So yeah, it was the 4 years in Manchester, and then to be honest, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I thought maybe in my last year after I went back from Seville, I think I was going to consider going back to Spain. And that was just one of those moments that changed my life. I just saw, a bit of a notice on the wall saying, would you be interested in teaching English in South America? So that sounds brilliant, yeah. And I just then may as well apply for it. This was sort of like in January, February, went through all the process, and then I had to sort of choose which country. Ended up choosing Colombia. I'd never been to Latin America before. Just like, I wanted to go somewhere totally different, random, where I was going to be a proper adventure, wasn't going to know anyone. And Colombia just seemed really fascinating in terms of nature, architecture, the people. I chose Cali because it said that they had the most beautiful women. So that was one of the attractions.
I knew there was a Latina connection for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, the beautiful women, the south of the tropical city. That's it was sold to me the more I read about it. And yes, I came over. Just on this 1 year. Was supposed to be a 1 year teaching thing, just working at the local public university. But obviously, as soon as I got here and as soon as I found myself, like, no, I want to stay here, man. And luckily, a few days just before my visa had run out, I had a job at the school I'm currently working at now, which is called Colegio Jefferson, the bilingual school. And luckily, they offered me the job on the same day, and I went back to Ireland because my visa had run out, and then came back, and I've been working incredibly my 14 years at Colegio Jefferson. I'm very, very thankful. I've had an amazing time working at the school, love the kids, I've met so many amazing people working there. My parents come over a couple of times and taken them to the school. They've had a great time. So I'm still enjoying the teaching, even though of course it has its ups and downs. It's not an easy job or profession, but that's a full-time gig. And then, as I say, on the side, like I was told, into music and trying to make a go of that as well. But so far, I'm still I'm still not touring the world, making a million yet.
But it's pretty cool that you just kind of floated and just found your way to Colombia. Like, it's not necessarily close for you, you know what I mean? And then for you to end up there, love it, just that's
Yeah, man, I remember, I met, to be honest, my mum actually, she only told me this years after that I called her from Manchester, and Mum, I'm going to go to Colombia. And so she never told me. So that's the brilliant thing about my mum and dad. They're always really supportive. And they say, "What are you doing?" That's one thing I really appreciate with mum and dad. But she only told me this years after that. Whenever she's in the supermarket with my dad, and she's like, "What? He's going to go to Colombia."
what about Pablo Escobar?
It definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't ever at all mentioned or on the horizon or whatever. I think it might be my whole psyche or relationship with Colombia probably started that I met a Colombian American girl when I was, I was going out with a girl that was Colombian American in Seville, and maybe just from there. Now she lived in New York; she wasn't in Colombia. But probably there, just somewhere in the subconscious Colombia. So yeah, it's funny how things worked out, but it certainly wasn't on my radar. It was just more a thing. And that, just started looking at the map, looking at the options, what could be good. So sort of between Colombia and Chile also seemed like a really interesting destination, and maybe Ecuador. But no, I'm really, really glad of, I can't, talk highly of my experience living in Colombia, despite, ups and downs. It's an absolutely fantastic place to visit. And anyone that's came here, family, friends, have said it's probably the best or one of the best countries I've ever visited. I totally love it. The people, the nature wise, just the different types of things you can do. It has all the different types of terrains. Got two different coastlines. It's got mountains. It's got the Amazon. It's basically just one of the most. It's one of the most. I think it's the second most biodiverse countries in the world after Brazil. So it's a really fascinating place to live. And there's still so much more of it that I still really want to visit.
Yeah, we had a chance to go to Colombia as well, and we loved it as well. I just didn't spend enough time there. It was so cool. I want to talk about a little bit about your music stuff. We talked about that a little bit in the intro. So, you're a musician with some tunes. Like, you're on YouTube, you're on Apple Music, Spotify. People can find you as Kevin McCaffrey, not the comedian. You're the musician. Probably not the first time you get that.
Exactly. So, the only sort of way of my name is Kevin McCaffrey Music. That's how I try and differentiate from this imposter. I'm the real Kevin McCaffrey. So yeah, and also there's a space between the Mac and the differentiate itself. But no, yeah. Basically, my name is Kevin McCaffrey Music. I'm on mostly on Instagram and YouTube. I'm on other stuff, But the ones that I'm most active are Instagram and YouTube, and I've got a lot of sort of material there. Released a number of music videos and singles. So anyone wants to check them out, go ahead and check them out. Yeah, that's Kevin McCaffrey Music. Yeah.
So Kevin, how did you get started on music down there, and do you also like sing in Spanish as well?
I do. Well, yeah. Don't answer that last question. Yeah, I sing and compose in both English and Spanish. I think I wrote my first Spanish song actually when I was living in Sevilla. First song was called El Golfo, which is basically a Golfo, someone who likes the sort of party lifestyle. That was the first song I wrote in Spanish. But no, I predominantly sing and write in English. Hard to get into music. I'm just from a very, very musical family. Very thankful to my mum and dad for that, and my brothers. I've got 4 brothers and a sister. They're all mad into music. A brother, for example, who's actually a journalist, a music journalist, where he's done a lot of writing for music anyway. I've got, in my family, a lot, a number of them are, I've got a few brothers that are musicians. And one particular brother, my youngest brother, he was probably one of the inspirations, even though he didn't know it, because it's like, my brother's here playing music. Even this younger brother, I can't even do anything. Can't even play the flute. So it was like, my brother, he was in a band, and I guess a little bit of jealousy there. And then I was like, right, I'm going to learn the guitar. So I still didn't pick up a guitar until I was like 18, even though I love music and love singing. I didn't pick up the guitar until I was like 18. But the funny thing is, I started, we had a real go at it. And then after 2 months, I just didn't see that I was progressing and then actually said, this is not for me. And then it was only about 6 months after that I really started getting into it. I was more determined, do you know what, I'm going to do this. And then I guess it was more when I got into Manchester. One of the reasons why I actually wanted to study in Manchester was because I loved the music and the bands there, like Oasis and Smiths and Stone Roses and New Order and all that. So I guess being surrounded, whenever I look at actually the place that I live, they're actually really, really rich in music. Manchester, brilliant city for music and live music. Seville is like the birthplace or one of the most important for flamenco music. So I think having that as a sort of, being exposed to that for a year was I think was very, very enriching. And then Cali's like the salsa capital of the world. And we saw, a lot of it was topical. So I'm looking to have had that immersion of living in somewhere like, as I said, these 3 different cities, really great variety of different types of music. I think that's definitely been an influence in me. But I started songwriting when I was, just started university. It was almost 19. And in fact, I think it was last summer I was going through my old lyrics, because they're just like on bits of paper. And I was going back and I'm actually, these are pretty crap, But it's good to see how much I have progressed in the last 20 years. But no, so when I was at university, it was more than anything. I just played for myself, playing the odd gig here and there. But it wasn't really, I would say, until I'm living in Seville, played a few gigs in Seville. But it's more just like playing in parties and around friends and stuff. So I think it was, exactly. It was only really when I came to Colombia that I started really taking music more seriously. Started my first pepper band sort of around 2010 with a couple of Americans, a guy from Chicago, and a guy from New York. So then that's whenever I started, writing more frequently. I started writing. I think it's the best sort of most productive period was when I was living in Seville and when I came back from Seville. I think that's when I really started to improve on songwriting and become actually songwriter and started actually think that I'm an artist and started actually be a lot more conscious of what I was writing and what I was trying to transmit through my music. So I mean, it was that said that was the sort of period, but it was only really when Colombia started, getting into some of the first bands, and as I said, because I think I'm lucky to have such a really interesting exposure to so many different types of music. And so when it's growing up, obviously it's all classic Motown and rock, things like that. Bruce Springsteen, David Bowie, artists like that were massive in my house growing up. So very big thanks to my mum and dad, my brothers and sisters. I was most mad into the Beatles and Oasis, when I got older. But I'd say, so I had that, and then I had the sort of Irish background, Irish folk, which I always really loved. And then the sort of living in Manchester, I think, as I say, I met a lot of great musicians that I was able to play with and sort of was influenced by. Living in Sevilla, and I even learned a bit of flamenco guitar. But as I said, it's only really here. Started, as I said, started the first band, had a few bands, and then it was actually started recording when I was around 2015, 2016. And then since then, I've released 3 different music videos, 5 singles, and I just recorded. I'm going to be releasing a new song, and hopefully, I've been saying this for years. But hopefully, eventually, I've been trying to do this. I've always wanted to do an acoustic album. So instead of these sporadic singles, just something that I could be proud of and say that that's a good bit of work there. So that is to hopefully start working on that just before going back to Ireland. And I think also going to go back to Ireland as well this summer. I want to start, because I've never really played that much in Ireland either. So I think this summer I'm going to take my guitar and try to get a few gigs and stuff as well. So it was really from living in Cali and, get exposed to such a great variety of music, apart from it's a very music-based city. A lot of Afro-Colombian music, which is amazing. There's a great influence from Afro-Colombian music from the Pacific. There's music from the Andes. There's the tropical music like salsa and merengue. And there's actually, interestingly, a really big blues, interest in blues and jazz as well. So, also, so here I've had, different projects, working with the band. I still have my own, I'm working with a band now. my own solo stuff, and also have an Irish, a Celtic group as well. So yeah, I've been, people are, yeah, as I said, it's been really a great experience doing music. And as I say, I'm very thankful for Cali. It was really where I've progressed and being able to get the response and be inspired and do all the recording and advance as a musician, I guess.
That's awesome, man. So anyways, people can go check out your music at Kevin McCaffrey on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Music. Let's get to Q&A.
Q&A.
Kevin, welcome to Q&A. First, hot or cold?
Hot, definitely living in Cali.
Beach or mountains?
Ooh, beach, that's tough though.
Colombia, you got to do it. Bus or train?
Ooh, train.
Cats or dogs?
Cats, I have a dog, a lovely cat. Sorry, I love a lovely cat called Ginger. So she's just right there, so I'm going to say cats. All right, Ginger.
Top or bottom bunk?
Bottom, reach the hip the top.
Sports team?
My sports team, Manchester United. I'm Glasgow Celtic, but Manchester United was my first real love in sport, I guess, Manchester United.
Nice. If you could have a beer with one person from history, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, what a great question. Oh, that is a fantastic question. To choose one person. I think, it's quite cliche, but I would definitely have to be, I guess, one of my favorite artists that has inspired me would be John Lennon, or any member of the Beatles. I guess someone like, yes, I would have to be a musician. I would talk to John Lennon basically just to get, how it would be brilliant just to get a sort of idea his philosophy. What's, I'd ask him how is he able to write such amazing songs? What's his sort of, what's his
writing process?
Doing things, exactly the process. And I just think he'd be a very interesting character to have a beer with.
That's a great one. I guess maybe precursor to this next question here, but what is your dream concert?
Dream concert? Well, I'm going to say one because it could actually become a reality this summer. So my favorite artist, that I guess I could actually have a beer with him technically, and Bruce Springsteen is the artist that I really, really want to see most. And he's probably, I would say, so I mentioned John Lennon, but Bruce Springsteen is also a massive influence on my writing and even just, upbringing, particularly the album that I listened to most of an influence in my life was Born in the USA. And remember, always remember growing up as a kid. So Bruce Springsteen, and I think I'm hopefully going to go and see him in London, Wembley Stadium this July. And it's going to be absolutely epic. So in terms of to have a balance of a dream concert of something that's not possible, there's a few. I'd say Led Zeppelin would be absolutely amazing to see, or Jimi Hendrix. Can I have a few? I'm basically telling you, I'm telling you a few. Prince, I'd love to see what I've looked at. And I know he's a very, very, very controversial character, hated by a lot of people now, but absolutely, imagine seeing Michael Jackson live would have been absolutely amazing. And of course, the Beatles. Even all the Beatles didn't seem like they were amazing live, but it's part of my favorite band, so I'd love to see the Beatles live would have been great. But in terms of the show, I'd say Zeppelin or Jimi Hendrix would have been better to see live.
All right, let's get to the travel portion here. What's something you never travel without?
Something I never travel without? I mean, in an ideal situation, let's say, that I'm traveling over a period of time and it's possible. I mean, I'd love to, take my guitar and something to write with. Other than that, there's not really any sort of accessory. A good book, I guess. A good book.
Which country has the best cuisine?
Mexico. Or I do love curry though. So Thailand has amazing food, and so does India. But I'm going to say Mexico because I've been to Mexico.
What is your biggest travel pet peeve?
My biggest travel pet peeve? Oh, another interesting question. Pet peeve? Just really, really loud tourists, I guess. People that are very loud. People that are really tight, trying to haggle with one of the locals over no money. So cheapskates and really loud people, and people don't want to spend money.
Tell me your best travel hack.
Travel hack?
Hack's the experience that, based on your travels that you've gained this wisdom that people should know about?
Oh, so in a way, just what would I sort of recommend, or what have I learned with travels? Just off the top of my head, I would say have a rough idea. Definitely, I mean, don't just sort of have no idea where you're going, but have a rough idea, but don't meticulously plan everything. I generally think that give yourself leeway, in terms of how many days here and this, and I would say don't meticulously plan your trip. That's something I would say.
It's a great, great tip. What's the most underrated country that you've been to?
The most the most underrated country. Well, I would say a lot of people don't know about Guatemala. Guatemala was amazing. Belize as well. And the image is changing a lot, and Colombia is getting a lot of better better press and tourism. But Colombia is an absolute still hidden gem for a lot of people. So I'm gonna have to say Colombia as well.
Where is somewhere you'd never go back?
Somewhere I'd never go back. Well, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it later in the program. So probably Cartagena. Although I'm sure sometime I will go back to Cartagena. Basically, it's not in terms of places that I really want to go back. Yeah, definitely. The last time I was there wasn't so great, but I'm sure at some point I will go back. It's not all bad. And there's also, there's a bit of some really not very nice towns in Latin America as well. But that's Cartagena. It's the one space flag, obviously.
Where did you experience the least friendly locals? And you can't say Cartagena.
No, to be honest, a lot of people in Cartagena and in Colombia in general are really fantastic. Least friendly. I'm not saying that they were rude. They were just very reserved. Probably Bolivia. They just keep themselves to themselves. And by no means am I saying they're not nice. They're just very reserved. They're not nowhere near as expressive as Colombians or Mexicans, for example.
Once again, you can't say Cartagena, but where were you the most scared?
Most scared? Well, the thing is, whatever happened to me, I never really felt scared. A place where I felt scared, I think Guatemala City is a bit dodgy. I also remember as soon as I arrived to Colombia, in fact, just walking around Bogota, because obviously that was the first time I'd really seen proper poverty, and you're walking around at night by yourself. So I guess the first initial night or two when I was in Bogota as well. But other than that, place that I've actually traveled to, I think probably Guatemala City was a bit dodgy in the center.
What is your favorite cocktail?
Probably mojito. I do love a good margarita as well. A really good but mojito's probably the best favorite overall.
Where did you find your most expensive pint?
Most expensive pint? Good question, man. I think it's probably London, to be honest. But in terms of, I think it was actually London. I'm just trying to think everywhere. I'm pretty sure central London.
It may sound like a weird question. It's evolved. Where did you find your cheapest pint? And everybody just kept saying it. Now, so almost retired the question.
Now, if we're talking just a local beer, I think the cheapest place I ever got a beer was actually, I think it was actually, was it Ireland were playing in the rugby in the World Cup, and I saw this offer. We were doing 30 beers for 30,000 pesos. So that was 30 beers for that would be in US dollars about $7 for 30 beers.
Jesus,
that was pretty amazing. These were selling, and cans of this German wasn't bad beer either. So I think that's actually the cheapest I've ever gotten. But other countries that travel, I think probably Peru, Bolivia was quite cheap as well.
Where in the world is your favorite bar and why?
Great question. And my favorite place, just because there's the best beer, is the Porterhouse in Dublin. Now, again, it's central Dublin, very expensive. It's in Temple Bar, and that's very touristy and stuff. But it has the most amazing selection of beers. Also, another place I just came to my head, and you're asked the question. I remember once I was in Ecuador. There was a place called Strawberry Fields Forever. It was a Beatles themed bar. So that was possibly the coolest bar I ever met. I ever went to on my travels. But in terms of just going out like a proper pub and getting, a really, really nice pint of stout, the Porterhouse, Dublin, can't beat it.
Hell yeah. It's funny you say that. I had actually a beer rep or somebody who works in the alcohol industry on the last episode, and I asked him. I said, "Dude, why is the Guinness better in Ireland?" And he said, "It's not because they keep the good stuff for themselves. It's just that it's poured way more, so it's a lot more of a fresh keg." You know what I mean? Like if you're in somewhere else than Ireland, let's say.
Yeah, I think there's different factors. Yeah, that's number one. Apparently, I'm sure things have changed now. People used to always say in terms of how it travels, but then also how the pubs, how they keep their don't have as much of an arts down to how well they keep it. The people that are pouring the pints. There's a lot of different factors.
Exactly.
Yeah, but one of my mates, John, lives in Dublin. In London, outside London, and they've actually started these new, really advanced cans, like this sort of nitro can type thing. And it's basically like, I cannot wait to try that when I go back home. Obviously, I'm going to have pints, but just the novelty, and it looks proper order. So yeah, that's what I would say on that matter.
Story time.
Okay, so I was waiting for you to ask the question. So basically, yeah. Well, I don't know the whole format. No, so yeah, my story, and I guess why for the listeners or why Phil contacted me was basically about an incident that happened to me in Cartagena back in October 2020, and it's basically something that's been an issue that's been happening the last number of years. And it's regarding the drug scopolamine, or what's called here in Spanish, Scopolamine. So yeah, my story was basically October 2020. I remember very clearly because Colombia actually had one of the longest lockdowns in the world. So this was in October. Colombia only came out of lockdown in September. So it was the first time traveling, post COVID, post lockdown. And so one of my best mates said, guys from Kerry in Ireland, he's been living in Cali 1 less year than me. So he was traveling to Cartagena with his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife. And so basically, yeah, he said to me, "Do you fancy going to Cartagena with us? Why not, get out of Cali for a few days, lockdown?" Because I was on midterm break. So I was like, yeah, do you know what, yeah, why not? Yeah, let's get out of Cali for a few days. So that was my midterm break at school. Obviously, I've been to Cartagena like 5 times previously, so know the city well, know that, although it being a beautiful city and there's so many fantastic things you can do, it can be a bit dodgy, and it's got more dodgy over the years, particularly, there's a lot of people trying to sell you drugs, a lot of prostitutes, pretty seedy, to be honest. I'd say it's almost like the Latin American Amsterdam or something like.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been to Cartagena before, so I'm pretty streetwise in terms of well traveled and living in Colombia all these years. So I know all about the need to be careful when traveling. So anyway, I got there, and I think it was on the second night. So I met up with my mate Sid on the first day, and then the second day we were going to meet up in the centre, just one of the main bars. There's a place near the clock, like a sort of almost like a courtyard type thing. So there's a really cool Cuban style salsa bar. I think it's Cuban salsa bar anyway, and it has these tables outside. We're at been there before, and your friends and one of my brothers was in there in 2011. So place I've been before. So sitting there having a beer with mate Sid, and got approached by a couple of girls. Just started chatting to them, and they were just saying, how long he's here for.
Just a couple Latinas.
Yeah, exactly. Just, nice looking girls. That's it. And yeah, we're just sort of chatting. And saying, you know, what, where are you guys from? Nothing was, you know, small talk, and said, look, how long you want to be here in Cali? In Cartagena. I said, well, he's leaving tomorrow, but I'm going to be here for another couple of days. Which is like, well, do you want to do something tomorrow? I was like, yeah, sounds good. So just exchange numbers. And that was pretty much it. You know, that was the previous night. So then the next day I went to the beach just by myself, with a guitar, you know, something to write with. I was just sort of, wanted to the beach by myself, nice chill day. My mate said had left that day. He'd already gone back to Cali, so just by myself, chatting to this girl during the day. Totally normal. He was like chatting, you know, what do you want to do? You know, let's meet here, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So we had arranged to meet at my hotel. I was staying in a neighborhood called Gethsemane, which is about 10 minutes walk from the center. So yeah, at this stage, absolutely no, what you'd say, red flags, no sort of suspicious behavior or anything like that. Just totally normal. And I said, you know, let's meet at my hotel. We'll have a drink or two here. We'll have some food, and then we'll go for a walk. That was the initial plan. And so, yes, you'd at my hotel. And also, obviously, as well, doing that way, it's more safe. You know, you take precautions. So at least that was a bit more safe that way. Even though, as I said, at this stage, I had zero sort of suspicions in any way. And then, the girl got to my hotel, and basically, I was going to sign her in, and she didn't have her ID. So, like, I'm sorry, you can't come in there if you don't have your ID. And I was like, well, that's for crap. Okay, well, no worries. That's just take a walk in the center then. So, walk in the center near very, very public outdoor space. We're talking now about 6:30 in the day. So, it's very, very common. You know, it's a nice place to sit. You know, the sun's coming down near the, it's very public space. A lot of people sort of sitting around. Nice breeze at that time of the day. And it's very common for people to sit there and watch the sun go down and maybe have a drink or something, you know, before going on somewhere. So I was just sitting with this girl on a bench, 3 or 5 minutes. After about 3 or 5 minutes, things are going well. Again, at this stage, no real any suspicious behavior, nothing at all. And I said, "Do you want a drink?" So I just had a drink from a vendor. And then we look, so it's not. For anyone that doesn't really know, it's very common in any of these cities, in Latin America, particularly Colombia, that you can buy from just like a vendor in the street. You know, they'll have like a cooler, but there'll always be, you know, people sell anything in the street. You know, chewing gum, candy, you know, crisps, you know, chips or whatever, and beers. So it's just one of these people going around with a cooler. Which again, I've done that numerous times. You know, all parts of Colombia. Someone said, you know, it's being really irresponsible, and that's what people do. You know, it's part of the culture here. And so ordered. I said, you'll give us a couple of drinks there. And so we're chatting for another few minutes. By this stage, I don't even sit on this bench with this girl for about 10 minutes maximum. And then said, look, one of my friends over there, do you mind if she comes and says hello? I was like, yeah, no problem at all. So then her friend came over this stage in with the 2 girls on the bench. And literally, I was chatting for a minute or two. And literally the next thing I remember is me being really, really groggy and not knowing where it was in a taxi. Hours later. So I had literally, like, I'm not even exaggerating, that was literally it. All the next thing I then remember was just sort of, being in this very sort of groggy state. And the taxi driver then arrived and finally at my hotel. From what I was gathering, he was taking me everywhere. Didn't have any idea, and I was obviously not making any sense. He eventually got to the hotel I was staying, and I just sort of remember him saying, "Look, this guy's been drugged. He doesn't know where he is, but look, I've been driving around ages, and he needs to pay me." So, and I remember I was sort of starting to come around at this stage, and all I remember now, this is where I start to get a sort of clear memory. So I remember going up to my room. So obviously at this stage I've been robbed, right? So, but I had some cash upstairs. So I remember going up, coming down, giving him whatever 50,000 pesos, so like $10, $15, giving him a taxi, and then that was it. Went upstairs, and then I was out for the count. So then the next morning, woke up. And basically, yeah, obviously, and now I was starting to obviously realize the situation. I've been robbed, no phone, no wallet. So, so this must have been about 7:30 in the morning. And I just went down to the lobby and said, look, this was happened last night. Do you mind if I use your laptop? Because, there's nothing I can do here. I don't need count from the card and everything. So they were very kind to allow me to use basically the hotel computer. And it was then I got on my account. And so I had approximately 60 million pesos in my account, which would at that time around $15,000. I think basically actually today's current exchange is about $15,000. So because I was obviously still in this very groggy state, whenever I looked at my statement in the corner, I thought that it said 40 million. So I thought I'd been robbed 20 million. So that's around $5,000. So obviously it was like pissed off and angry as anything would be, but okay, look, I'm all right. Nothing's, I'm still here. Nothing, things have been worse, blah, 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 And then that basically, so I canceled the card, left it there, still had my credit card. Now, obviously, hindsight's a good thing. I should have gone out with the norm, with the credit card and not the bank card. You live and you learn these things. So still had my credit card. So what I had to do, I still had a little bit of cash. So I went into the center. I needed to go to the operator, get my new phone, went to the bank, explained what had happened, and then went to the bank and explained what had happened. And obviously saying to them, how do you let this happen? Blah blah blah. But what was there no blocks? Jesus.
But hold on, Kevin, hold on. So you said you thought that they took 5,000, but they actually took the whole lot. They took 15,000.
So initially, I just thought the second, 20 million pesos, 5,000. There was a massive whack of my money, basically a third of the money is what I thought. But it's, as I said, I've still got my house and haven't taken it all, so to speak.
They took all your fucking money.
So, but as I said, initially I didn't even know that. It was only when I went to the bank. So I went to the bank and basically going all guns blazing and saying like, well, I suppose they all guns blazing. I wasn't like being overly aggressive. I was just like saying, look, how can this happen? How can you guys have this amount of money come out of my account in such a short period of time? Should no blocks, no, how the hell can this happen? And there's like, there's nothing you can do. Whenever you sign for your debit card, you're responsible for your own blah blah blah. And I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. You're not even off. You're not even saying sorry. You're not even saying there's anything you can do. You're just basically not. You're not doing anything. You're not even saying, "Are you okay?" So I was, the customer service was awful. And I said, "Okay, can you just print off my bank statement then, please, and then tell me how much it is?" And then that was whenever I realized that they'd taken it all. So it was like, that was the moment. That was the one. That was the rock bottom moment. So it's like, oh, fuck. So I thought it's 40. I thought it's 40 million pesos, and it's 40,000 pesos. So it's like $10. Thinking of $10,000. So that was the moment.
They left you a tenner.
Yeah, they left me a tenner. Yeah. So that was the one moment where I had that meltdown for about 30 seconds, but for whatever reason, I just managed to something just came upon me. I was like, right, I'm not going to let this. This is not going to, break me type thing. I managed to blank it out and say, okay, this situation, right? I need to act. This is it. Now I can do what I got to do. So then I went to the police, tried to make a report. That was an absolute disgrace. So the problem is this shit is happening all the time, man, on a daily basis, I would say. So I realized whenever I got the bank statement that there was all these really, really outrageous bogus transactions. So the majority was taken out, 50 billion. So around over $10,000 was taken out within 7 minutes in this, in this restaurant.
Jesus Christ!
In a restaurant,
no safeguard.
Yeah, it's like absolutely mental. So most of it was taken out in a 7-minute period of time. There wasn't even actually that much taken out of the ATM. There was all these very, very suspicious. Obviously, any bank can go, cancel that. Very, really, really huge amounts in, like a drugstore, like a pharmacy or like a drugstore and 50 million pesos in this restaurant, Jesus. But obviously they didn't do anything. So and that's obviously what I was saying to the bank, by the way, before I left. And I was like, how the hell can you don't do anything about this? So I went to the police, and because they obviously know that this shit is happening, there is a ring happening probably between girls like the one I met, even possibly the vendors, this bogus restaurant, the bogus, the drogeria, the pharmacy, and the police probably involved, that someone probably even working at the bank. All of this sort of, very calculated, organized crime that I, obviously was a victim of, and people are victim of all this happen all the time. So whenever I went to the police, it was like, they were basically just laughing. It was like, and even whenever they were showing me, I was like, explaining who the girl was, they even showed me. It was like, that's the girl. And even then, like, can't do anything. You need to go to what's called the Fiscalia, which is another office. But again, with no real, that's a proof type thing, not many do. And this is the problem with Scopolamine. When you're administered that, and I still don't even know 100% how it was done, it was most likely in the drink somehow, even though I didn't leave it unattended or anything like that. But I do remember, I think that's the only possible reason. There is a possibility of blowing some Scopolamine in your face, but I can't really remember that. So I said the most likely aspect was it in my drink somehow. Maybe I was distracted when I was talking to two girls, one distracted, who knows. But the thing is, when you're under the effects of the Scopolamine, it acts so quickly, you don't seem grog. It's not like, you hear of like date rape and things like that, where you're just like, you're out. You seem totally normal. And you are basically it's almost like you're hypnotized. You will do anything anyone tells you. And to the passerby, you seem totally normal. And of course, when you're under the effects of Scopolamine, you totally forget everything. And so that's, of course, exactly what happened. Now, the thing is, man, and then after, obviously, I went back, even went and tried to get a test done in a local hospital. But the thing is, that's another thing that's really hard to prove, because it doesn't stay in your blood level or your urine levels for any length of time either. So it's really, really hard to even prove that you have been administered a Scopolamine. So it's like you literally, we're in a period now of, AI. You could not manufacture a better drug for basically doing horrible things to people, so
it's like getting robbed on steroids.
It's basically, there's no better drug than this Scopolamine, and it's really, it grows. It's called the borandanga. It's a type of tree. It's actually quite a nice tree, and it grows in Colombia. Yeah, it's a nice tree, but obviously it's a very dangerous tree. But it is actually quite a nice flower plant. But the thing is, it's very fine powder. It looks like cocaine. Because obviously after all this happened to me, I became an expert in it, and investigated all about it. That it takes such a small amount, and you're gone, or you're totally gone. But also, because it's such a small amount, the thing is, it can be so dangerous that, if someone gives you too much, it can really just, make, put you in hospital, really have you, a severe episode. Or you hear episodes of people literally dying as a result of how much they've been given. Horrible stories of how people just wake up with no clothes and shit, and the trauma that people have as a result. Some people just don't come back from the trauma. I am just so lucky, touch wood, man. I luckily didn't suffer any physical or mental trauma. And I honestly, getting through the ordeal, and the fact that nothing did happen to me, and the fact that I was so determined to not let it, beat me. I think there was that determination. And luckily I didn't suffer any physical or mental trauma. And I think actually what was, looking back, I think actually getting my story out there and sort of making a public thing and sharing the experience probably helped with the sort of, because I didn't feel any shame, It's very often the people, when they're a victim of this, think, I'm stupid, I let my guard down of my fault, or blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you're a victim of a horrible crime, and that's what happened to me. And as I say, in my case, I was in totally public space in the middle of the day, you know what I mean? And I was totally, I had the six senses, and 5 senses, the six senses. like the movie. And translating from Spanish. But you know what I mean? Yes, I was totally knew exactly what was going on around that, and I was in a place I'd been before. But there is a lot of sort of stigma that people just think that this is just something that happens to stupid foreigners being drunk at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, which does happen to a certain amount. But whenever I shared my story, man, so many Colombians came out, friends of mine, told me, "Oh, this happened to my aunt, this happened to my dad, my brother, friend." It's not just the sort of this idea of it being an endemic thing that happens to stupid tourists, because that's the stigma that happens to us. And it's happening a lot more, more and more, particularly in cities like Cartagena and Medellin. Cali, luckily, it's not so much of an issue. But so, my whole idea of just getting it out there was just to, create awareness and, share my story with other people. And maybe, it's a bit of a cliche, but if you help one person from not doing or being more vigilant, I think it's worth doing, because it's such a horrible thing for anyone to go through. I came out of the experience a lot more wise, a lot more appreciative, I guess, about life and everything I have, and I even channeled it artistically. Made a really great music video, with a fantastic director here in Cali called Cristian Jimenez, where we actually reenacted what happened. So I channeled it as well and made a negative into a positive. So I guess it's just a story to everyone. It doesn't matter whether in Cartagena or in Colombia, just obviously just be as vigilant as you can. But it doesn't matter even how vigilant you are. You can just have bad luck, man. There's some bad people out there. But certainly anyone that's thinking of traveling to Colombia and going and they want to sort of enjoy themselves, let their hair down, be very careful. And certainly in Medellin and Cartagena, I would say for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And I think this is the moment that we should play a bit of the song off the episode, and we should join the Patreon and continue this conversation, because I have so many questions and I want to unpack a lot of this. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. No, thanks a lot for reaching out. Really, really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Just got back. I took the bus from Pacific Way. The waves, they crashed, but they weren't gonna spoil my day. I'll always remember how I found time for crying on Pacific Way. Pacific Way. I'm making love in a cabin on a hill. Beneath the stars, it seemed right there that time stood still. And hanging trees and waterfalls, I was amazed. Deserted beach of dark black sand, I walked through caves. I'll always remember how I found the sun was shining. No time for crying on Pacific Way. Pacific Way. I'll always remember Pacific Way. Pacific Way. No more tears, dot Pacific Way. Only smiles on Pacific Way. I just got back. I took the bus from Pacific Way. The waves, they crashed, but they weren't gonna spoil my day. Pacific Way.